Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, and welcome to what is going to be a very exciting review. As you can see, today I'm taking a look at one of the brand new Class 47 diesels from Bachmann, and these were a bit of a surprise announcement from them back in one of their quarterly announcements earlier this year. Now, conveniently, I happened to be in the market for a large diesel like this for my layout, and I've always loved the Class 47. In fact, I do think it is my favourite class of diesel. So naturally, I pre-ordered one of these when they were first announced, and it's just arrived, so today we're going to take a look at it. Now, first a word on the pricing, and this will get a bit complicated as there are 3 different tiers to this new model, so do bear with me here. Firstly, the standard DCC ready version comes with an RRP of £239.95, with most retailers selling this for around the £200–205 mark. A Sound Fitted model will then set you back £339.95 if you pay the RRP, but again, most retailers have this version for around £290. Finally, there is the Sound Fitted Deluxe version, which, in addition to having sound pre-fitted, also has a couple of extra details, which I'll point out as we go along. This version will set you back a whopping £369.95 at RRP, or around £315 from the retailers, and in fact, that is pretty much what I paid for my one, because of course I went for the fully spec'd out model, didn't I? Now, there's no getting around it, these prices are really high, and some of those RRPs are, in my opinion, ridiculous. The prices that the retailers have them for, though, I think are a bit more reasonable, and I'll explain why I think that later on, but nevertheless, the expectations, just like the prices, are very high. So, without further ado, let's jump in, shall we? So, taking a look at the model, as you can see, I've gone for the classic two-tone green BR livery, and personally, this is the livery I always associate with these locomotives. It's done really well here, with nice sharp lines between the 2 different shades of green, and there's no paint bleed whatsoever. We also have the late British Railways crest on the side, and again, that is printed really nicely. It's sharp enough to see and doesn't look blurry at all. Up towards the end, we also have the loco's number printed on the side of the cab. In this instance, it's D1565, in a relatively simple standard white font, just like it was on the real ones. Underneath, we also have, is that a builder's plate or a maker's plate, I think? I'll be honest, it's so small that I can't actually see what it is or whether it's legible, but hopefully you'll be able to get a better look now on the close-up. We also have a few voltage signs like this one on the side of the body. Again, these are so small that I think that's what they are, but I'm not entirely sure. There's also 2 more on the ends of the locomotive as well, and you can see we also have the big yellow warning panel which finishes up the livery nicely. While we're looking at the end of the loco, you can see that we do have a nice headcode box here, and that does have lights inside, as you will see a little bit later on. There's also 2 rear lights here as well, and as I'm sure you've already guessed, these also light up. Looking up at the windows now, we come to the first of the extras that is only available on the deluxe models. You may just be able to see the tint effect on the windscreen, and this is something that appears on the prototype, but as far as I know up until now hasn't been replicated on a ready-to-run model. Bachmann do have to be applauded here for pushing the boundaries, and as far as I can tell, this looks just like it does in reality, and really shows how the manufacturers are making our models more and more realistic these days. Unfortunately, my particular model has a bit of an issue at the other end in that the windscreen has completely popped out. I mean, it does look like the window moulding has fallen back into the cab, so hopefully I'll be able to take the body off at some point and put it back into place, but it's not really something you expect to have to do on a model that costs over £300, especially if the special windscreen is one of the big selling points for paying all this extra money. Back to something more positive though, you can see over the windows we have windscreen wipers, which are really fine separately fitted parts that look great to my eyes. Moving down to the buffer beam, you can see this looks a bit blank at the moment with a few holes dotted around. This is how the loco comes out of the box, but there is quite an extensive detail pack supplied so that you can add the hooks and various bits of pipework should you want to. It has to be said, there is a fair old amount of stuff in this pack that needs to be fitted, although don't forget that there's enough in here to detail both ends of the loco. There's also snow plows and the DCC blanking plate as well, should I ever want to remove the sound decoder from this loco. We've talked about the buffer beam, but now onto the buffers themselves, and these are most definitely sprung. The buffers themselves do seem to be made of metal and are really quite thin at this scale, but they don't feel delicate at all. They have an air of quality to them, and actually that's the impression I'm getting from this loco overall. It comes at a premium price, but you're getting premium quality for it. I do just want to mention the handrails on the sides of the doors too, which are picked out in silver. Now these aren't part of the moulding, they're actually separately fitted parts, and if we look at them from the front, you can see the space between the handrails and the body. Again though, despite these being very small details, they don't seem fragile or delicate at all, though I have to admit I'm not going to start poking them to find out. If we move further down, we can now take a look at what's going on below the body. The bogies have lots of nicely moulded detail on them, including the cab steps and the springs for the suspension. The wheels themselves are also nicely blackened, and the axle covers are picked out in yellow too. Further along the loco, you can see there's more underframe detail here. I'm not going to pretend I know what all this is for. I'm guessing maybe battery boxes, but again, it's all really nicely moulded, and you can see some of the detailing is picked out in orange there too. I mean, with all these details that have been picked out, none of it is bleeding over into areas it shouldn't be. It all looks perfect, and Bachmann really seem to have taken care here to make sure that their model is the best Class 47 out there. From the underframe to the roof now, and it's slightly less complex up here. Most of this does seem to be just moulded detail, but I think that's because it doesn't really call for many separately fitted parts. That said, we do have some very fine grills, most noticeably over the two fans. I'm guessing these meshes are etched parts, and they really are top notch, which they need to be considering that people are going to be looking at these a lot. This brings me neatly to the deluxe model's second party trick, which is that these fans actually work. I mean, there will be some people out there who consider that a bit of a gimmick, but like the tinted windows, I think it's good to see Bachmann pulling out all the stops for this, and considering that we often look down on our models from above, this is something that you really will notice. Now, we will get to see the fans working in just a bit when I get the loco down onto the layout for its first run, but generally that is a very quick overview of the loco. I do feel like this is one of those models where the more time you spend looking at it, the more little details you notice, but I can quickly see this becoming one of my favourite models, and I say that as someone who is usually interested in steam engines. Now, normally in these review videos, I have the loco sat on the rolling road, and at this point, I would give it a quick test to show you how it runs. In this instance though, I can't do that, as all the axles on this loco are driven, and my simple rolling road just isn't able to cope with that. So, let's get this down onto the layout now, and we can really start to see this Class 47 come alive. So the Class 47 is currently sat in the fiddle yard on my modular model railway, and before we see how well it runs, I just want to show you some of the lighting functions. As I mentioned before, the head code box does have a light behind it, and if I switch that on now, you can see it lights up nicely. You may have also heard the switch sound there, which is part of the DCC sound file. And of course, if I reverse the direction, the head code light goes out and is replaced by the two red tail lamps instead. For those of you who like to run things prototypically, you'll be glad to know that you can switch the lights off at either end. So, for example, you wouldn't have the tail lamps on if you were coupled to some carriages. So I'll switch these lights off now, and we can take a look at the cab lights. Again, these are really nice. They're a warm white colour, so they're not so bright as to be overpowering, but still clear enough to be seen in a fully lit room like this. This also gives us an opportunity to look at the cab detail, which I sort of skipped over earlier, and you can see Bachmann have really gone to town in here. It's difficult to get a decent shot that really shows it off properly, but you may just be able to see that as well as the control desk and seats, there's also a good amount of printing on the back wall, which just adds to the realism. Of course, you don't just have lights in the cab on one end, you can also illuminate the other end too, and just like everything else, these can both be controlled individually. The final set of lights is for the engine room. I mean, this is really over the top, but I love Bachmann's commitment here. Not only have they put lights by these tiny windows, but you can also see on the close-up that there is actually moulded detail inside there too, which is just incredible. But now it's time for the moment that I know a lot of you have been waiting for. It's time to test out the working fans. So if I just switch these on, and there they go. They do seem to be nice and smooth, and they're not spinning round at 1,000,000 miles an hour, which makes them seem less toy-like. And when you're running the loco, these fans automatically switch on and off every so often along with the appropriate sound. And you can also trigger it manually too, because let's face it, as soon as you show this model to someone, that's going to be the first thing they'll want to see. So I think that's all the special functions, but now we have to find out how well the Class 47 runs. The good news is that this loco is heavy. I was stunned when I went to pick this up, and that may just be because I'm not used to having large diesels like this, but it does seem like the majority of the inside of this loco is a big metal block. So I'm going to do my best to run this in the fiddle yard here. I'm turning the power up now, and you can see it's a really nice smooth runner. Being a sound model, this is running on DCC, so it has speed curves, and braking is also slightly different too. As I shut off the power, it actually just coasts, and you have to activate the brake using one of the function keys, which does take a bit of getting used to, but I have to say it does make driving this thing feel a bit more realistic. Right, so let's run it really slowly now. This is on speed step 1, and yeah, that is really impressive. I also feel confident that I could leave the loco at this speed all day and it would continue to run without stalling at this consistent pace. And if I speed it up again, yeah, I really can't get over how smooth this is. It's so quiet too. I can't really hear any motor noise from this at all, and it just feels, like I said, very consistent. As I said with the detailing, it feels like a high quality model, and that is definitely carried over into the running characteristics too. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this model performs, and I think it's about time we got it running around the layout properly. Of course, this is a sound model, so you'll be pleased to hear that I'm going to completely shut up now and let the loco do the talking instead. So, for the first time ever, let's see the new Bachmann Class 47 on the layout. So the sound in this new Class 47 model is fantastic. According to Bachmann, it has 2 pre-installed speakers inside, which really gives it some oomph. As you'd expect, the sound is very responsive too. For example, when you turn down the power, you'll hear the engine start to coast and the brakes will squeal as it comes to a stop. There's also coupling sounds, guard whistles, and plenty of others which I haven't had time to set up yet, so it really does have all the bells and whistles, so to speak. Like I said at the beginning though, I do want to come back to the topic of the price though, because is this model worth it? Personally, I do think that the £370 RRP for this particular version is very high, but the £315 it's being sold at most retailers for is more reasonable. If we think of the standard DCC ready version being a £200 model, okay yes I know that's still quite high, but for most locos you then usually have to add £100 on top of that to get a high quality sound decoder, which this does have. That means you're getting those extra tinted windows and the working fans for just an extra 15 quid, which seems like a pretty good deal, or at least that's how I'm trying to justify it to myself. For me though, it was a bit of a no-brainer. I've been wanting a Class 47 for a while, and so when this new one was announced, it was the perfect opportunity for me to get one. If you're just going to go for the standard DCC ready model though, I'm not sure how much of an upgrade it is, especially if you've already got one of the previous Bachmann 47s. There's also the fact that Hellion are working on their own Class 47 at the moment, and while it seems that that may have some issues, I expect their version will probably be cheaper. That said, the new Bachmann Class 47 is a really nice model, even more so for someone like me who isn't used to having big diesels like this. After years of Bachmann being behind on delivering new models, it's great to see them come storming out of the gate like this with a fantastic new loco that is pushing the boundaries of what is possible in our hobby. To then have it arrive just a few months after it was announced too is another big bonus, and it does seem like Bachmann's new system of announcing products in their quarterly updates is working, so let's hope they've got some more surprises in store for us. Anyway, that's going to be it for this time guys, but do let me know down in the comments what you think of Bachmann's new Class 47. Is it a worthy upgrade or is it filled with gimmicks? Because I'd genuinely be interested to see what people's opinions are. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon too. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you in the next video, and for now I'm going to leave you with the sound of the Class 47 shutting down. Bye!